Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be answering a question from a channel member, Tesseract, who asked this in the Discord. So we're going to pop over here real quick, take a look at the Discord. So he asked this question: hey guys, struggling to understand my bounty hunter options. Boss Grief Mando is the core. Plus Salmon GAC, Aura Lead, instant payout for what purpose? Fennec, Lord Vader counter, one else, Dengar on defense. I've also got IG, Boba, Cad at high relic levels. Thoughts on how we use each team and for what purpose. On Swago, he sees these things. Are they best used on offense or defense? Help. So I was like, hey man, I'm actually at dinner, but I'll give you some, give you my lowdown at some point. And as I thought about crafting this, I was like, you know what? It's best to do this in a video because this is a really good question, man. I think this is well worth a video here. So we're going to be talking about bounty hunters today and how to use them properly. So like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Got to give quick shout outs to the channel members. Of course, Tesseract being one of them. Thank you guys so much. You may be on the council. You're not yet granted the rank of master, but you're still granted a special place here. And of course, I would be completely out of my mind if I didn't mention those at the Wampa and Jedi Master tiers. Thank you guys so much for all of your continued support. Again, interested in joining, link down below. That's also where the Discord is. Probably the most important part you guys want to hear. Discord link down below. Really good stuff happening there. Let's talk about bounty hunters. These are a foundational faction to me. This is a faction that you should have early on in the game. Now, I would actually argue that your core bounty hunters at the start are Bosk, Dengar, and Boba because they're your executor requirements. They're part of that executor requirement list. If you go to the journey guide, it is very important. This is kind of the way I look at it. We go down to the executor here, and you look at the characters that are required. You see Boba Fett, Dengar, IG-88, Bosk. Of those, I say that Boba Fett, Dengar, and Bosk are kind of the three most important. They are so very good together. I think Dengar is a highly underrated bounty hunter, and you were very right, Tesseract, that defensively, this is where Dengar shines. You got to remember what Bosk lead does. So Bosk's lead, right, his reward, they get, this, but it's up here, that whenever an enemy suffers a debuff or resists, all bounty hunter allies recover 5% health and protection. Dengar throws out his mini mind mayhem, right? Then inflict negative status effects on all enemies that suffer a critical hit. So you can inflict tenacity down, damage over time, turn meter reductions, applying thermal detonators. This is a huge way to just heal up your entire team. It's awesome. And then you've got Boba Fett, who on his basic can inflict damage over times. He's got an AoE ability block. And then even on his special here, he's going to dispel all buffs on them. If it defeats, they're not revived. Otherwise, you inflict healing immunity. So there's multiple ways that these three characters kind of all benefit each other to give that healing and that protection and health recovery. It's a big deal. The other thing to pay attention to, I just want to make sure we get this out of the way before we move on. With all bounty hunters, what you want to pay attention to is the leader's contract. This is one of the most important parts of their kit. So when trying to figure out which leader to use in a situation, ask yourself how feasible that contract is. So Bosk's contract is dealing damage to the weakest enemy 10 times. Only bounty hunter allies can contribute to the contract. Very important there to note that. Big thing here. Can you damage the weakest enemy 10 times? So if you're going up against, say, General Skywalker, you're not going to be able to target the weakest enemy that often because General Skywalker's in his stance. Whereas you go up against a team like, say, Imperial Troopers, where there's no pre-taunt. As long as you go first, you're going to be able to damage the weakest guy 10 times because nobody's standing in your way. So think of those pre-taunts. Think of those characters who are going to keep you from targeting those characters. If that's the case, Bosk lead not always that great. So, and again, now one way to get around that is characters with AoE abilities. That is a good way to get around that and can really benefit you. Now, there's 4 other bounty hunters that play a big role early in the game. You've got Grief and the Mandalorian, who are both requirements for Beskar armor. Mando, who you need for Executor, And then IG-88 is a relic requirement for the Executor. Cad Bane is one of the most important ships with the Executor. So all 4 of these characters should be decently geared and or relicked early on in the game. I would say Mando and Greef are kind of characters where we don't relic them right now. You kind of wait till later on in the game. So, the one wild card with bounty hunters in the early game is Jango Fett. And the reason I say that is because he's on a node with a Houndstooth, and a lot of players really like to take him to relic levels. If you want to do that, it's fantastic. He is one of the best plug-and-play characters in this game. He's got a bounty hunter tag, a Mandalorian tag, a scoundrel tag, and a separatist tag. And those aren't just kind of like, oh, he kind of fits in there. Like, he's a key part of every single one of those teams. Every single one of those teams, he plays a huge part in. So, very, very good kit. I could go on about Jango Fett, but this is about bounty hunters in general. So, I just wanted to mention Jango as a wild card. I would kick myself in the head if I didn't mention how much I love Jango Fett, and he's a big wild card if you did want to gear him up. Really, really good stuff there. So, this right here is what I'd say is going to be your standard lineup in the early game. This is what I would recommend as your standard lineup. Bossk, Boba, Dengar, Greef, and Mando. This team here is flexible on offense and flexible on defense. I've seen this team get plenty of holds defensively. I've used this to beat plenty of good stuff on offense. The reason I like them on defense maybe a little bit more, especially early game, is if your opponent doesn't bring the right team here, they'll try to undershoot this, and then they preload them. And a preloaded bounty hunter team is extremely scary because there's a lot of good stuff happening here, and very quickly the battle can get out of hand. You got to think, if Bossk hits contract, all bounty hunter allies gain 50 speed. Let that sink in how much 50 speed plays a role. All of a sudden, that team that was maybe a little bit faster than you is now going to be lapping you constantly. That 50 speed is huge. So, this to me is your standard lineup, offense and defense alike. Offensively, remember, you do have to pick your teams a little bit better. If they have a pre-taunt, remember, you can dispel that with Greef's Bring Them In Cold, but that's only if there's one pre-taunt. If there's 2, you're still not getting to that weakest enemy, and that's kind of the one issue or the one caveat to Bossk is that you've got to be able to target that weakest enemy to really get a lot of use out of his contract. Still a very good team, but if you're kind of reliant on that contract to get going, sometimes Bosks can be a little bit harder depending on what you're going up against. Now, Zam Wessel here is not necessarily a wild card, but I wanted to mention her because she's got this Grand Arena Omicron. Now, first you've got to understand her unique ability. So at the start of battle, she gains a 20% increase to her offense for each Scoundrel attacker ally, max health for Scoundrel support, and 20% protection for each Scoundrel tank. So why do I always say, oh, she's amazing in 5v5 and in 3v3? Well, you heard how each of those things is hey for each ally. In Grand Arena, those goes up to 60%. So now you're getting 60% max protection, max health, and offense for each. And remember when you see each means it counts herself. So whenever you see for each ally, that counts that character. So in this case, if you're going to run her in a team of this 5 up here, let's say we replace Dengar here. So Bossk is a tank. Zam is going to gain 60% protection from him. From Boba Fett, she's going to gain 60% offense. From, let's say this was herself, right? This is the slot that she would take. She's an attacker. She gains 60%. So now offense is at 120%. Then Greef Karga support, 60% max health. And then Mando is an attacker. So she's going to gain an effective 180% offense at the start of that battle because of this unique in Grand Arenas. Now, she's also going to gain 5% speed for each other bounty hunter ally. So now you see that each other, that means it's only counting her teammates. So in 5v5, she's gaining 20% speed. In 3v3, only 10% speed. Then Other bounty hunter allies, which means, the other characters in the team, gain 20% of her current offense, max health, protection, and speed until the first time she's defeated. So the reason this Omicron loses value in 3v3 is because she's gaining less stats. So you think, I talked about in 5v5, she could gain 180% offense, 60% health, and 60% protection. She's going to lose, two of those stats adding together because two of those characters aren't around. So, and again, that's minus 10% speed too. So it really, really takes a toll on her in 3v3. Still a solid character, but it's kind of one of those Omicrons where you're kind of like, it's all right in 3v3, amazing in 5v5, but 3v3 definitely loses value. And it's one of the big things, one of the big reasons I haven't applied it is because it does lose value in 3v3. Now, let's get to the Lord Failure killers, right? And, like I said, if you can beat Lord Vader with this team or with your Fennec and, a combination like this, you're allowed to call Lord Vader Lord Failure. Otherwise, it's Lord Vader to you. Slap some respect on his name. He'll still beat this team. Now, you notice that we've got Beskar Mermando here. He's a honorary bounty hunter when you're countering Lord Vader. He's there because when you run Maul with Lord Vader, there's a chance that someone's going to get deleted on your team. And remember, with his protective intuition here, he's going to be able to give, he gains a bonus turn, right? He dispels all debuffs on himself and takes a bonus turn. And then the Wonder of the Force ability is triggered, right? He gets to, its cooldown is reduced to nothing, right? So he gets to use it right away. So against Lord Vader, you guys have seen me do this, and Arnold do this a million times. Beskar Mermando takes his bonus turn, puts damage immunity, and your goal was that your Bosk at least got his taunt off, right? You need to get Bosk's taunt off. Then what happens, Bosk has taunt and frenzy. Everybody's debuffs get dispelled. Bosk's frenzy activates. Then you can use Grief Karga again. You try and get your contract going because with Fennec, remember her contract here, what makes this so good is that her contract is 20 debuffs are dispelled or expire from bounty hunter or scoundrel allies. As soon as Beskar Mermando takes that bonus turn, use Wonder of the Force, Fennec's contract activates, Mando can go ahead, annihilate somebody, and then you kind of pick apart the Lord Vader team from there. This is, in 5v5, I find this a far more consistent counter. In 3v3, it gets dicier because you throw Thrawn into the mix, bad things can happen. And the other thing, though, is that if they don't have Maul in their team, if they do like Lord Vader and there's no Maul, oftentimes you can kick out Beskar Armor Mando from this team in 3v3, replace him with OG Mando. Similarly, in 5v5, if they don't have Maul, you could put Zam over here, and Zam will make this counter even easier. Just most of the time, Maul is there, so you end up having to use Beskar Armor Mando. Still a fantastic team. Very, very good, but you do need good mods. You need very good mods. And it's, again, this is understanding when contracts make sense. That why is Fennec lead so important here? Because it's about getting 20 debuffs dispelled. And that's so easy to do against Lord Vader with all those damage over times. Because Beskar Armor Mando here, right? This is going to dispel all debuffs on all scoundrel allies. And then you've also got our boy Grief Karga here with Sweeten the Deal, where he can dispel. So very quickly, you can get that contract going. And her contract is actually very, very good. Right? They gained 20% defense and overconfident until the end of battle. And overconfident is here. 20% less defense, but 50% offense, 10% speed. So a little bit less defense, but the boost to offense and the increasing your speed is, again, much welcomed, particularly when you're trying to take out a galactic legend. So this is how you would use the Fennec team. Now, you need really good mods, just to put in perspective of what my Fennec's mods are. I am plus 138 speed with over 12,000 special offense. And if you're wondering how we got there, that's because we've got an offense arrow here, offense here, offense here, offense percent down here with a lot of speed, offense percent here with a lot of speed, and then a lot of speed here. Prioritizing protection. And again, everybody else's mods you can go look at, but I at least want to make sure you understand that Fennec you need modded out of her friggin' mind. Finally, let's get to the last team here, the Aurra Sing team. What makes this team? How do you use this team? Aurra Sing is brilliant for a quick contract. Aurra's lead, look, no Zetas, right? What her leadership does is that, okay, you're going to get offense while you're stealthed. At the start of battle, bounty hunter allies gain stealth for 2 turns. All bounty hunter attacker allies gain stealth for 2 turns at the start. When Aurra is in the leader slot and not in the ally slot, the following contract is active. Use an ability while buffed 10 times. Then you get your payouts. Now, stealth counts as a buff. So I'm going to show you guys how this works so well. Oh, we get our rewards here. We'll grab all them up. So we're going to go to the GC that everybody seems to love today. And unfortunately, this one isn't the best example because of how stupid this team is. I'm going to take Fennec out, and we're going to put, say, we'll put Boba Fett in here. So, this Aurra team, what's really good is, let's say you can't get around a taunt. Like the General Skywalker team. If you're fast enough, if you use the Zam Omicron here, and you can outspeed the enemy team. So look, everybody's starting under stealth because Grief does, and everybody else is then an attacker. So now I'm going to taunt up. And then watch the magic here. So I can call the mass assist. All right, we just deleted that ray, which is fine. Now look, we're almost at contract. Boom, I got my contract. Now we've got a bonus turn here. So boom, there she goes. There this goes. And Bosk is going to taunt again because I want to snipe out Zori. That right there. Now this is obviously an extreme example, but you could see conceptually how this works. That just by using that, just by using those buffs, use an ability while buffed 10 times, you can get your contract extremely quickly. So in Grand Arena, think of the Admiral Raddus team, the Rogue One team. If you can outspeed them with the Zam Omicron, what happens, right? So now watch. This will be maybe a little bit better here. Oh, geez, we deleted her already. Keep going down. So now look. Everybody has that up. We're going to go ahead. And I'm going to keep moving along here. And let's just do this. And we're going to snipe her out. I'm going to call everybody to assist again. Okay. A little bit different here, but you guys can still see absolutely massacred that team. If there wasn't Deathmark, we wouldn't have lost that fight. So very, very easy to get a fast contract with Aurra Sing. This is really good. I've seen this beat General Skywalker teams. I've seen it beat AdRad. The way that this works, right? The way you want to use this team is really when you need to get around a taunt. Now, turn order is very important with bounty hunters. Turn order is very important. You want your Bosk to be faster than Grief Karga. Because what you want to do is lead off with Bosk taunting, right? You want to lead off with Bosk's taunt here. Because then he gains Frenzy. And remember, Frenzy is he's going to gain a bonus turn or gain bonus turn meter. So then when someone uses a special, so then you can use Grief Karga here to either use one of his 2 specials depending on what you need, triggers Bosk, and then you get your contract going. That's the way you win with with Aurra Sing there. Very, very simple. And those similar concepts apply to like the Lord Vader battle where all those debuffs are gone so you can gain bonus turn meter. So those are the ways that I would use bounty hunters in Galaxy of Heroes. Again, this is kind of your standard lineup down here to recap everything. Your standard lineup's kind of right here. I recommend, I like to set this on defense because I think it's just going to cause your opponents some grief if they don't bring the right stuff. No pun intended there. If they don't bring the right team to beat this, it will get holds. Now, adding Zam in there makes this even more ridiculous because she will surprise a lot of players. Again, when you're ready for it, being able to beat Lord Vader with these characters is huge. It's a big part of a lot of strategies in Galaxy of Heroes right now. I can tell you that many of my grand arenas hinge upon the fact that I need to pull this off. And then finally, again, super fast contract. Zam being brilliant here. This team here with Zam can beat Adrad. It can beat General Skywalker because you'll just remember Mando. He can annihilate someone right away. His where's it at? His contract here, Disintegrate. Instant defeats. Remember, there's not many things that stop instant defeats. So you could snipe General Skywalker while the rest of the 501st is standing. You can snipe Admiral Raddus out. You could snipe Jyn out if you wanted. I mean, I'd snipe Admiral Raddus out because he's the biggest threat, but you snipe Adrad out right away. Super easy fight from there on out. So that's the end of the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, hit that subscribe button. Actually, you know what? Whomp that subscribe button. Leave likes, leave comments. Let me know your thoughts. I love all you. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.